Howdy, howdy, everyone. Welcome back to Sidekicked, a Marvel Champions podcast all about the allies. We'll teach you who they are in the comics, discuss their card, and what kind of decks they might be played in. I am one of your hosts, Earth Twister, and with me is.
Levi Lewis! Ew.
Huh? What?
What's your name?
Oh, hi. I'm Jason. I'm here. I'm awake. I'm here.
Fantastic.
Good morning.
So glad you're here, Jason. See if you can get some coffee.
Oh, okay.
What has everybody been playing recently? Let's start with you, Jason.
Really? Really? The. All right.
If you'd been watching the show notes, you would know.
Oh yeah, and I'm paying attention to the show notes. I'm just letting that coffee sink in. It's 5:30 in the morning.
Whose fault is that?
That
Jason's
is. It might be my nephew's fault, but we won't get into that. So. Um. Oh yeah, what did I play playing recently? Recently, I've been doing a lot of different stuff. The main game I've been playing is Sort. I got a bunch of new stuff in. Last week, my expansion, my pre-order for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. finally came in last week. And with it came about $100 worth of product. So, super excited about that. I am only now 3 characters away from having a full collection, which is pretty
Hey.
exciting. We are, 6 episodes in, and I only have 3 left to get. They gotta get the Ham, the Valk, and the Venom. So,
I like Spiral Ham.
me too. What? Uh, anyhow, I'm pretty stoked about it. Been playing that Sorting Hat game. It's kind of funny. The day I got new stuff in, Levi Lewis actually came over and we started playing Marvel Champions. And so we recorded 2 episodes, and I got a chance to try 2 new characters I not had a chance to play yet: the Scarlet Witch and Ironheart, and both were a lot of fun to play. I did the Scarlet Witch. Is actually, her deck is right here. I played her in Mystic. I played her in Aggression, and she was a lot of fun. The idea that you're going through the deck and you're impacting the deck in a way that is not your deck, but actually in counter deck, and messing with the villain was actually a lot of fun. Made us a little nervous at first when we're like, oh, like we're already through Zola's deck and we're getting acceleration tokens, but it didn't really hurt us too bad in the end. And then, which is kind of neat if you're looking at Falcon, because Falcon feels like it has some similarities. Not exactly like a copy-paste type situation, but it looks like it has some similarities to the Scarlet Witch. But we won't dive too much into that. I'm not sure how many people are wanting to get spoiled for what's coming with that character or not. So, and then Ironheart, I was blown away. I'm not gonna lie.
She's OP.
I don't know if OP is the right word, but she is a great, consistent hero. I was in a group chat with some folks talking about different characters starting out as a beginner, and it was kind of funny to me because I was like, well, SPDR is kind of nice because it kind of teaches you a little bit of everything. And they're like, no, that is too complicated. But you should try Ironheart as a beginner player, which is not a bad deal. It kind of makes sense. It's pretty straightforward. You do these things, you get these tokens, you move on to the next level. It is a unique character in the sense that you have 3 levels just like a villain does. And when you've reached that 3rd level, you're kind of kicking butt.
Like a villain does.
Yeah, like a villain does. It was kind of fun to actually get to play Moon Girl, which I've never had a chance to play. I'd love to talk more about her in the future. And then just trying out some different Justice cards, but even then I didn't feel like I had to have really a single aspect for her. She can probably fit well in any aspect that is played for her, and I'm pretty stoked to try her a few more times. So, those are my 2 most recent games. In that, though, I got to face MODOK, and MODOK is pretty cool, actually. I had a lot of fun playing MODOK. So, I lied. I just remembered that I did not face Zola with the Scarlet Witch. I faced MODOK. But even then, getting to play MODOK for the first time was still a lot of fun. And just seeing how that game plays out and getting to get the different pieces that come to make that game come together. And just the uniqueness behind it of like, yeah, I killed MODOK like 10 times, but he's not dead. Not until I take care of these other things. And so it's just kind of a fun thing to see how that game worked out. And the way he feels, he's definitely a villain that I want to go back and face again.
Yeah.
And I think I'd have a lot of fun facing him again.
Definitely forces you to play the game not in a rush style. I mean, you can because he removes lock counters when you defeat him, but definitely forces you to play things in a different manner.
It makes you think ahead. And the fact that you're either having to spend resources to set folks free or trying to get the psionic Inhuman as fast as possible so that you can start using him to take care of things. It's a lot of fun. And then the adaptoids, if you're not watching and being careful, they will get more powerful over time. That is just a cool concept in general. And I've not played it in the campaign mode yet, so I'm looking forward to testing that out and seeing the impact that can make in the game in the long term.
Just remember, once the last adaptoid environment comes into play, you've lost the game. And not just because it makes things really bad, it just, you actually lost the game.
Oh man, yeah, I'm sorry to see how that worked out for you. But that is the beauty of YouTube, is we're all learning together. So, anyways, that's what I've been doing recently, and I had a blast doing that.
What about you, Levi? Are you awake over there? I know Jason's been talking a lot. It looks like you fell asleep.
I did fall asleep during that monologue. So yeah, so I, like Jason was saying, I've played. The last thing I played was with him. I went over to his house and I was like, "Hey, we're gonna play these games." And his wife was like, "No," and I was like, "Yes, we're playing these games. Taking a hostage." And so we did. And it was super fun. I got to play Nova for the very first time. Nova was very, very fun. Nova has super, super cool stuff. Like you mentioning one of his cards, like his World Mind card, where it does not count against your hand size. Which I had read that before, but I totally forgot about it whenever I started playing. But I mean, I figured it out pretty quickly. But it was so nice. That's such a nice card to have. Is being able to have that. He was fun, but at the same time, to me, at this point, he seems like they didn't try super, super hard putting his stuff together. To me, it seemed like they were just trying to put his stuff out there because he wasn't like as unique as some of the other ones. But I mean, there's so many heroes that it's hard to be like unique every single time too. I'll give him props for that. It was very fun though. And then I also played Magneto, which I have played Magneto several times. I fully believe that Magneto could have like horrible cards in his deck and he would play amazing just because, I mean, he's got he's got that magnetic pull, which I mean, to me, it makes sense that he'd be able to be like that awesome because he's Magneto. Magneto is supposed to be a very, very, very powerful mutant. So to me, it makes sense.
At this point in time that we are doing this recording, it has been 5 months since Magneto's release?
4
months.
He was released in November, so maybe roughly 5.
Okay. So at this point, like, if you haven't had a chance to play Magneto, pick him up. Honestly, I think one of the better characters in the game. I agree with Levi Lewis. He's just a lot of fun in general. I think a couple of weeks ago, you mentioned there's not an aspect you can't play that Magneto doesn't do well in.
Yeah, the first time I played him, I played his precon, and I never do that. I never play the precon because I know typically the precon's like not that great. But no, I was so excited to play him. I was just like, I'm going to try him out like this and see how good and destroyed. I just did massive, massive destruction as Magneto.
He's amazing. He's really hard not to play him in anything and win.
The cards that come in as precon too are some of the best leadership cards in the game. At least some of the ones that I enjoy the most. I really like Squared Off. I really like Children of the Atom, which is not leadership, but Children of the Atom makes so many combinations for X-Men X-Force available. And then he's got a couple of, like Won't Stay Down was one that I really want to make happen. I haven't had a chance to make happen yet. And he's got another one in there that's like, I think it's like Mutant Mayhem or something, where you have like Exhaust and X-Force and an X-Man, and some crazy stuff happens that way too. So really good cards, especially if you're new to the game and you're like, I don't know if I want to try leadership yet. That's the route I would advise going. Pick up Magneto's set, test it out, go from there.
That's fair. And me. What about me? What have I been playing?
You play this game too, don't you?
Yeah. I have been playing through the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with Maria Hill and Nick Fury. And it's been a bit of a wild ride. Of course, I made some big mistakes, but you live and you learn, and it's kind of changed the way that I did some videos, and I think it works out pretty well. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I think, has been a lot of fun. I'm realizing that, yeah, I like Nick Fury okay. Don't really know how I feel about Maria Hill. I've played her a little bit. Not a huge fan. But the villains and the scenarios and the way they built the campaign, it's fantastic. If you're like, yeah, you'll have to watch my review that comes up to really see how I feel about the game. about the campaign box. But Agents of Shield has been a lot of fun figuring out how to fight the campaigns, the scenarios, and do those. It's been really really cool. Some very unique decisions.
Now, I do have a question for you.
Oh no.
Because this is the part of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that I am most excited about. And I've not had a chance to do it yet because I'm itching with anticipation. And I think it's going to be something I'm going to be diving into next for my channel. The Thunderbolts. The Thunderbolt scenario and having that many modular sets that can impact that Thunderbolt scenario and the randomization behind it. What are your thoughts? Do you like that scenario or is it not that great?
I like it. I think it's probably one of the better multi-villain scenarios. And I call it a multi-villain scenario even though they're minions because you have to defeat the minions before you can defeat Citizen 5. I really enjoy it because thinking about it, every single time you play that scenario, it will be different. There's no, unless you're going to be like, oh no, I'm going to use the same modular sets. But if you roll a dice to choose your modular encounter sets or whatever it is that you plan to do, it's going to be different every single time. And then with the addition of all these other Thunderbolt minion sets, encounter sets that we're going to be getting from the heroes that that are coming out here soon, it's going to continue to change up that scenario, and you have a lot more variability with it. It's going to be a lot different every single time because those modular sets make up so much of the encounter deck.
That's really exciting because that's kind of my next plan. If I remember correctly, and again, this is pure ignorance because I've looked at that it's deck one time. You pick two of those modular sets, or randomize two of those modular sets per player.
I think it's one per player and then one additional.
Okay.
But
so if you're doing solo, you end up with two modular sets.
Correct.
Okay. So I'm hoping to do, I think there's 6 out right now. We're going to get, over the course of the next few months, 4 more. In theory, we don't know what's coming out in the last assumed pack of Winter Soldier at this point in the time of the recording. And I'm hoping to do a kind of a small series where I'm still doing like my cable stuff, where I'm doing just playing some different heroes, but doing a whole playlist of just testing out all the Thunderbolts and trying them out. And so I'm excited about that scenario, and that's a little spoiler, I guess, what's coming up on Jason's channel. But I think it's going to be a fun endeavor, and I'm so excited about that scenario.
Awesome.
I'm glad to hear your thoughts, though. It was good.
Yeah, I have thoughts.
Levi, do you have any thoughts on it?
I think you fell asleep again.
What?
Yep.
I'm awake.
Any thoughts on that scenario? Have you even looked at it yet?
No, I was asleep. What were we talking about?
The Thunderbolt scenario with Citizen V and the modular sets. And
No, Sure. Yes. My thoughts are yes.
You haven't played it yet?
No.
That's fair.
Cool.
Well, let's go ahead and move into the ally for this episode. And I'm sure you guys are waiting with anticipation on who it was. And it's actually the best of boys, Lockjaw. It took me a long time to actually decide. I'm pretty sure I didn't come up with it until yesterday. So
pretty much, yeah.
I've been busy. I've got other things going on, unfortunately. But Lockjaw, all you need to know about him is he's a dog. There you go.
Great.
Yeah, let's move on. No, so he's more than that, obviously. He kind of looks like an overgrown pug with a wishbone sticking out of the top of his head. I feel like that's a pretty apt description of him. But really, as you get into it, I did a little bit of research. He's not a pug. He's a bulldog. He's a really big bulldog. And he has the ability to teleport long distances through space and time. Although he hasn't done the teleportation through time very often. It's been maybe 1 or 2 times in the comics. And he is fiercely loyal to the inhuman royal family of, I think you pronounce it as Attilan, or maybe Adelan. Okay. And according to some sources, he was at one point a child, an inhuman child. But when he was exposed to the Terrigen mists, it turned him into a dog with superpowers. So that was sort of his Terrigenic mutation. He is particularly fond of the royal child Crystal and is protective of her. So I believe that is the daughter of Black Bolt and Medusa, if I'm not mistaken. He's very protective of her. He is the best of boys, and he does mostly whatever mostly, emphasis on mostly, whatever Crystal Luna I believe is Crystal's daughter, or Black Bolt ask of him. Other Inhumans have to coerce him a little bit more, but he's apparently very, very reliable in emergencies. He can teleport as little as 10 feet, so I think what that means is that he has to go at least 10 feet. And he can go up to at least 24,000 miles, which is the distance from the Earth to the Moon, if I'm not mistaken. And this can be...
Well, that's where the Inhumans lived for a long time, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that would make
that
sense.
makes sense.
That makes sense.
So this can be extended, by the way, with Kree-based technology. And part of his powers, he can teleport up to 12 others or a large mass around him. But whatever he is teleporting has to be within 15 feet or less of him. And physical contact makes it a lot easier. So oftentimes you'll see in movies, TV shows, or in the comics that the people who he's teleporting will be like touching him. When he teleports, there is a bright, sparkling flash, which is interesting to know. So not much is really known about his beginnings, aside from maybe what we've heard. Nobody really knows what happened. It's just sort of some reliable sources that say that he was a boy before and then turned into a dog. But he has served alongside the royal family as basically as long as he's been alive. His first encounter with anyone outside of the Inhumans was when Medusa, who had amnesia, left Attilan or Atalan, and Lockjaw and the other humans had to go looking for her. So they ran in as they were looking for her. They ran into the Fantastic Four, and they fought a little bit. But I think they eventually became friends because the rest of the resources I read made it sound like they were getting along. But upon their return to Atalan, Maximus, who is the brother of Black Bolt, who is very power-hungry and human, who wanted to be the ruler in place of Black Bolt, put a negative zone barrier around Atalan, preventing the Inhumans from leaving. Somehow, though, Lockjaw was able to get out. The sources that I read didn't really say how he was able to get out, but he was not able to find a way back in. So I guess he found some sort of back door that he could get out of, but couldn't get back into.
Just like your dog. It's like your dog going out the doggy door and then coming back to the back and being like, I can't get
Exactly.
inside. Really? It's right there. The doggy door is still there.
Right. Yeah, he may not be the smartest of Inhumans, but he's a dog. So what can you say?
He's a good boy.
He's the best of boys. So he goes through the mountains around that area because this is before they moved to the moon base. And he goes around those mountains, different villages there, and he's apparently accidentally terrorizing the villages that he's going through. And so the Fantastic Four show up, and he ends up asking them for help. How he asks them for help, because he can't talk, I don't know. But he ends up getting help from them, and they try to help him get through the negative zone barrier, but apparently that didn't work because the other Inhumans found a way out instead. So...
What's that, Lockjaw? The Inhumans are trapped in a well? Oh, no, just a negative zone? Oh, that's not so bad. We're the Fantastic Four. We can figure that out.
Yeah, basically.
Ruff, ruff.
Oh, man.
Sorry. This is ridiculous. Keep going. This is
It's
great.
Lockjaw, man. It's about a dog. What more can you do? So at some point, Crystal, the Inhuman daughter of Black Bolt and Medusa, marries Quicksilver, and they have a daughter. And Quicksilver tries to expose their daughter, Luna, to the Terrigen Mists, but is convinced when Lockjaw apparently speaks to not do that. And this is the only time he is recorded to have spoken, though Quicksilver states that it was a prank by two Inhumans on the Thing, making it seem like the Thing is crazy for hearing Lockjaw speak. But he is convinced not to expose his daughter to the mists from the Terrigen from this exchange. So I thought that was kind of an interesting story. They're like, Lockjaw spoke and said, "Don't do it," and so I didn't do it. But really, I know it wasn't Lockjaw that spoke. It's.
Do you know why?
I did a little bit of research, but you can tell us why, Jason.
So, Terrigen Mist, when it hits a mutant, or anybody with a mutant gene, it kills them.
Which makes this next point kind of confusing. But go ahead.
Yeah, so it kills them, and so there was a big deal, and this may be pre to that, right? But there's a point in the comics where the Terrigen Mist gets released in a large mass, and it travels like a weathered pattern around the world, which I don't know if you're going to talk about that, but that's what brings about Miss Marvel into the comics and different things, like different characters like that. And you maybe saw it in the show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., aptly timed. But in the comics, when that happens, mutants start dying left and right. And this is post, and you're going to, be about to talk about a little bit about it, I think, but post House of M, when Scarlet Witch says no more mutants. So now, not on top of that, they're barely starting to get mutants born again in the world. And now this mist is going around killing mutants off. And so the mutants and the humans don't get along very well. It was also around the time that Fox was being stingy on their rights for X-Men. And so pretty much Marvel said, okay, well then we'll just kill off anything that might be available to you in the comics. So I tried to push Inhumans for a little while there and did not go so well for them in the comics. Or the TV show.
Or the show.
Yeah.
Anyways, so that's why I think Lockjaw may have been like, hey, your daughter might have mutant powers.
Well, the other Inhumans, yeah. Which, again, makes this next point a little interesting because as I was doing the research, I was a little confused as to why this would happen. So maybe you can enlighten us a little bit more here.
Okay.
Lockjaw and a bunch of other Inhumans, really specifically Lockjaw, the Inhumans just sort of follow him around. But Lockjaw joins Quicksilver after Scarlet Witch did the House of M stuff, rendering all the mutants powerless. And Quicksilver is trying to repower mutants using the Terrigen crystals. And they end up going to places like Genosha. And I really didn't find out what happened with that, whether that actually helped or killed them instead. But that's what I found, and Quicksilver's trying to go around and repower the mutants with these Terrigen crystals, which apparently kill people with the mutant genes, which is not great. So maybe he mass murdered everyone and didn't realize it.
Might have. I have no idea. I just know pretty much after House of M, Quicksilver was pretty much ostracized by both the Avengers and the X-Men for a little while. Because he's the one that kind of convinced Scarlet Witch to do House of M, and then that led her to the mental breakdown. More of a mental breakdown, I guess. And it kind of went from there. And so, I don't know, if I'm honest.
That's fair. It'd probably be more in Quicksilver's story than in Lockjaw's, because that's all I had from Lockjaw's story.
Right.
But Lockjaw also serves on the Pet Avengers, which was initially a sort of 4-comic miniseries that I guess did well enough that it also generated 2 other miniseries afterwards. And he serves on the Pet Avengers alongside heroes like Lockheed, which is the dragon companion of Kitty Pryde, Zabu, and of course the famous frog known as Throg, which has Thor's powers as a frog. So he serves on the Pet Avengers and does some cool things. They assemble the Infinity Gauntlet. What they do with that, I don't really know, but that was interesting information to get there. There is more to say about Lockjaw, but I think that gives a pretty good summary of some of his appearance in the comics and his powers and abilities. Jason, would you mind describing his card and then tell the listeners what kind of decks you'd use him in?
Yes. Can I say one small thing before I do?
Yeah.
No.
One small thing. I'm just so excited.
No.
Okay. So Lockjaw does come in the Miss Marvel pack. So if you aren't aware what set, if you're looking for Lockjaw, comes in the Miss Marvel pack. The reason behind that, right? Because it may feel a little weird, even though you may see on Miss Marvel, and now it's a whole different thing. But at the time of her release, she was just an Inhuman. And so when she first appeared in the comics as an Inhuman, with the Terrigen Mist going around and everything else, she was doing superhero-y things, and she ended up running into the rest of the Inhumans, and they're like, oh, you're doing these superhero-y things. Here, let me give you Lockjaw for a while, and you and Lockjaw go do some superhero-y things together. And Lockjaw got her out of a lot of jams, being a young superhero heroine and needing to get out of situations. So a lot of teleporting with the big puppy dog for a while.
That's cool. Was it strawberry?
Strawberry Jam?
Yeah.
Strawberry jam.
Strawberry Jam has her one weakness.
Oh, man.
Knew it.
You didn't know. Now her whole story is a whole different thing going on, and that is something we can explore when we do a Miss Marvel ally background. All right, so Lockjaw. Y'all are here to find out more about the card here. Lockjaw is a basic ally, or cost, unique, of course, to attack and to thwart, both with the 2 consequential damage on it, The art is him, looks like he's chasing some sort of special butterfly that might be teleporting through space and time as well. But he seems super stoked to like chow down on this butterfly. He's a chunky boy
Very chunky.
with a long freaking tongue. And his teeth are like super duper sharp. In fact, it almost looks like he's like about to chomp down on his tongue itself. And it's got some flappiness going on in his chunky mouth there with his little nose against his face, and his eyes are all wide and excited, and he's got this big old tuning fork on the top of his head, and he's coming out of a portal. He is inhuman traded with 4 health points. On his card, on his text box, it says, you may play Lockjaw from your discard pile during your turn, paying his resource cost. So he can come out of your discard pile, which is kind of cool. You're paying 4 to get him out of the discard pile. And the flavor text says, and it's Kamala Khan, so you don't know that is the alter ego for Miss Marvel. Don't tell anybody. But she says, hold on, Bruno. Which we're not supposed to talk about Bruno, but come on, man. I think my new dog just teleported into my room. So, that's all. Now you know why the flavor text is there for Kamala Khan to be saying that. But, Lockjaw. Where would I play Lockjaw? I have not had a chance to play him yet, if I'm honest. I just got the Miss Marvel set recently. I think, though, he would play well in several different decks where you're playing from this card pile, some different stuff. But even then, he kind of just fits in almost anything you want to run where you're like, all right, he's a good fist resource for now, and I can bring him in later on.
Yeah.
So effectively, depending on how you play him, he can be a 5 or 4 resource cost character. So it just kind of depends on how you're looking at it. And if you're really doing math, if you spin him as a resource and then get him back into the game later, it's a whole different process.
Yeah, it makes it kind of hard to calculate your effective resources when you're thinking about using him and then playing him.
Right. The interesting thing is it's you get him out there and then he has only 4 health points and he takes 2 consequential damage for both items that he does. So really, he's only got 2 health points in the thick of it. Or you have him out there and he may defend for you twice, depending on who's attacking you. And at the time that he came out, those minions barely did anything when they attacked. So you could have him defend against a couple minions while you're getting things set up for some other stuff. But even then, for 4 costs, that's quite an expensive ally. So one of the things that I'm interested in trying him in, and there's some other decks that I see you guys have listed on here already that I'm not going to mention just yet, because I'm going to let you guys talk about it. But some of the decks I'm interested in trying him in, and this is again ignorance in one of these heroes, but I would love to try him in Star-Lord and give him that Guardian ally trait so that he maybe can come out a little bit cheaper as a Guardian, but also get some of the Guardian things attached to him, just like the
Energy Spear
and things like that, and trying to see if he'd be more helpful with some of those Guardian attachments on him. And then also getting him out with maybe like Maria Hill, making him a shield character, because I think it'd be fun to have a big old dog be shield traded, and seeing if maybe some benefits can come to him from being shield traded.
Spy Dog coming out next year to a theater near you.
So overall, we'll talk about it more. I don't know what other decks I'd use him in just yet. I think I need to play around with him and check him out a little bit more. He has a fist resource, so maybe something like the Hulk. But again, like the like you're spending your entire hand to play him is kind of a big deal.
Oh, for the Hulk, that may not be such a big deal because maybe in your hand you have all those 3 or 4 cost events or whatever, and you're just like, yeah, I can't even do anything with these. But if I bring in an ally, we could do something.
Right. So, and he's a fist resource, so at the very least he's going to help the Hulk out a little bit. But, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what else I'd have played him in, if I'm honest. He's just an interesting chunky boy, and I know that I've had some other friends talk about him and be pretty stoked about him. So,
Which that would be me. I'm the friend. So, when I first got a Lockjaw from Miss Marvel's set, I was stoked. I was like, dude, I think I'm going to love this card. Yeah, who doesn't love dogs? I love dogs. And the thing is that I put him in at least a couple of my decks. I think at the time I was playing a lot of Adam Warlock, so I was putting this in my Adam Warlock deck. And the problem I was having, though, was that I would discard him, and I was like, okay, cool. At some point, I can play that at any time. but I never, like, as many times as I have had him in my discard pile or in my hand, I have never actually played Lockjaw.
He hasn't made his way to the table at all then.
Yeah, bummer. But I love the concept of it, though. I love the whole idea of it. I mean, and it makes sense that he teleports, that he can come from the discard pile, like if you pay for him. But yeah, I've never actually had fun with him so far.
That's fair.
But I want to,
That's fair.
because he's a good boy.
He is a good boy. I have never actually included him in a deck, I don't think. But I have some ideas for where I would use him and like the purposes he might serve. And I think Lockjaw is a pretty solid ally, which we'll get into the ratings here a little bit later. But I would probably use him in decks that cause you to discard cards, because sometimes you might discard a bunch of allies and you need allies to get onto the field, and so it's just be nice to have somebody that you can. Okay, well, I don't have any of my other allies. Let's just pull him in. And he is stronger than, say, White Fox. With White Fox only being a 1/1, Lockjaw at least gets you an extra activation or an extra threat removal or damage done. And for some,
Yeah, but White Fox comes in for free.
sure, that's a good point. So, I'd probably use him in a deck like Magneto or Domino. Maybe not Domino quite so much because he is a physical resource. He doesn't count as much when you're discarding him, but probably definitely more in a Magneto deck where I might end up being over-resourced, drawing a bunch of cards, playing a bunch of stuff from my hand, and then realizing I still have 4 resources. So then I can just use those resources to pull in Lockjaw, which getting an ally onto the field is almost always never a bad thing. Probably the deck that I'd really use him in the most, though, is probably something with Bishop, because with Bishop you are going to be over-resourced a lot of the time because you are going to build your deck with a ton of resources. And at some point, you need a resource sink. And that is what Lockjaw is. I mean, you can use other heroes or other allies like Machine Man or Adam Warlock or heroes like that, or like Hulk maybe, but I think maybe Hulk discards the top card of your deck. But you want to use allies in Bishop that are going to help you use the resources that you have in your hand, so they're not just wasted resources. And they're almost never wasted resources in Bishop's hand, but once you've triggered his uniform and his rifle, it's just kind of like, okay, now what do I do? Just have resources in my hand. So you can do things like play Lockjaw, get him into the field and have him activate for you, defend for you, things like that. So I feel like Lockjaw would be really helpful there.
He might be like you mentioned with Bishop with the resources in a hand like that. I know that sometimes I'll play even just a regular deck and I'll get to like the bottom of my deck and be like, oh, here's all my freaking doubles. And I can't do anything with them. Yeah. And so that might be a good point then where it's like that random hand that you draw is like, cool, I got all my resources and nothing to buy.
Right. Now you have Lockjaw to buy. So he's definitely worth maybe including in several decks, especially if you have decks that you're going to end up building with a ton of resources.
And who here has done that? Me. I've done that.
Yeah, you got resource heavy decks, man. You want to make sure you can buy all the things.
No, I did a specific Magneto basic only resources deck.
That's right, cheap date.
Cheap date Magneto.
And still didn't see Lockjaw come out in that deck.
Probably because I didn't put him in the deck.
Ooh. Because then he wouldn't be a cheap date. Lockjaw's expensive.
He's a chunky boy. You got to pay a lot to feed him.
Yes.
So, I wonder though, like just looking at it, right? Like it is a 4-cost ally. Wonder what the thought process behind that when you're already giving him 2 consequential damage for both of his actions. Why is he 4-costed?
Yeah, so I think the reason why he has to cost so much is because of him coming out of the discard pile at any, like, it's not like there's no limit to it, right?
That's true.
So it's like while they're making him, they're like, we got to make him. He can't be cheap date Lockjaw.
Yeah, I mean, he's got, what is it? His ability is basically a built-in make the call, and he's playable at any point in the game. The minute you discard him, he's playable. So you can play him at any point in the game, or if he's in your deck, that's the only time he's not playable.
But I'd almost find him even more worth playing if at least one of his basic actions was one consequential damage, not two. Like now I'm paying 4 to get this guy out here to guarantee that he's going to do 2 basic actions for me and go back in my discard pile.
But then you get to play him again. You can pay 8 resources to have him played again.
Right, when I can easily pay for somebody like Dazzler, who I'm paying 4 for. On top of that, she's confusing the people, still doing 2/2, I think, or 2/2 for at least thwarting, and doing her job for a pretty decent price. On top of that, doing an extra effect, and it's a 4 costed. That I justify the confusion. It's alone is worth the cost, Or I'd rather pay 4 for Nick Fury, who's going to come in, either give me something special, and then do a basic action, and defend for me, all in one turn. That's worth 4 cost, Where Lockjaw, he might come in, he might do 2 damage for you, might do 2 thwart, and then if you're lucky, he'll defend for you. But if there's overkill, forget it. Like, it's, I'm just saving back 2 points of damage, I might as well defend,
Yeah. He's got enough hit points on him that you can plan with him. So if it comes up to you're in a sticky situation where it's like, I could play these cards in my hand and either potentially die or flip down and then the villain schemes out, or I could use these cards in my hand to bring in an ally that would allow me to use my basic activation, and then he could defend for me so I don't get killed by the villain, and it gives me an extra turn to maybe draw the cards that I need to turn this game around. So I feel like maybe with Lockjaw you do have that, and then you can continue to bring him in to give you that extra, okay, I need a little bit more space, I need a little bit more space. Whereas, yeah, I mean, you could be building with some other things, but yes, he does give you the ability to have the space that you need, at least for a little while, to carry on. You're almost always guaranteed a defender if you think about it a little bit.
Yeah, I agree, because like as soon as you lose him, you can get him back. So he's like once he's, because I mean, yeah, like there is the possibility that he could just be in your deck, but once he's in there, because like if you play him, you discard him after, once you've, like he's defended for you, you discard him. Oh, he can defend for me again,
Yeah. I mean, when you're bringing up Nick Fury and Dazzler, I can't tell you how many times I've had them in my hand and been like, they're too expensive. I cannot play them right now. I need to get other things set up. And so then I lose out on playing an ally. Whereas with Lockjaw, it's like, yeah, he's too expensive right now. I can use him as a resource to pay for this other thing I want to do. He's in my discard pile now, and then next hand, when I get a bad hand, well, now I actually have something to do with that bad hand rather than just like,
That's valid.
So.
I don't know. But even then, you look at somebody that like Professor X, who's 3 costed, very similar. Comes in, does his confusion or raise an X-Men or stuns a minion, and then can defend for you and thwart for 3.
Sure. I'm not saying that Lockjaw's really good.
No, the system's not perfect, right? But I don't know. It's hard for me. And maybe this is gonna, I hate being that guy, right? Because I want to be positive about the game. I want to be excited. It's just hard for me to justify putting Lockjaw on a deck.
That's fair. And like I said, I've never included him in a deck before, so I'm probably.
Right. I'm not trying to argue. I'm just trying to make an interesting conversation here, right?
Yeah.
Like,
no.
Yeah. If anybody's the Lockjaw expert, it's me.
There you go.
He says as he holds up Legion. Yeah, I mean, definitely Lockjaw. He definitely has things that count against him. 4 seems kind of high. I get that, and then the 2 consequentials each seems kind of high. But at the same time, he may become OP if you have 1 consequential damage on his actions, and so it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to play him now, but I will pull him in, and he's going to thwart 2 for me 4 turns.
Right.
Whereas, yeah, I mean, this does reduce it to 2 turns or 1 turn in a defense, but I mean,
and I bet
I would almost say.
And here's the other side of it, right? It makes it feel thematic in the sense of when Lockjaw shows up, he doesn't show up and do like 37 things. He does two things, and he disappears and goes somewhere else. He's your last-ditch effort to kind of get in and out pretty quick. So I can see that thematically falling in that route, but I would be interested in seeing the impact he can make in the game if and when we get more Inhuman traded characters. In fact, how many do we have that's Inhuman with the Inhuman trait?
I know for sure it's
Do y'all know?
Miss Marvel and Lockjaw.
Don't we have Black Bolt? Isn't he an ally?
No, I don't remember Black Bolt being an ally.
Okay, yeah, there is only 3 cards in the game that have the Inhuman trait. Can y'all guess what they are?
Kamala Khan, Alter Ego, Miss Marvel Hero, and
Lockjaw.
Lockjaw.
Nope, the Alter Ego is not Inhuman
Oh.
traded.
So it's Miss Marvel, Lockjaw,
Lockjaw. Lockjaw.
Yep.
Lockheed.
The suspense. The suspense is killing me.
No, Lockheed is he's actually
X-Men trait.
X-Men traded. I don't think he even has the mutant trait. I think he's just X-Men.
I don't know the third Inhuman.
It is also Miss Marvel from Nova's ally set.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So, yep, his ally.
Come on, Levi, you should have known that. You recently played Nova.
We don't talk about me.
Hero specific ally, yep. So, God. But I don't think he even played Kamala Khan in that game, if I remember correctly. He didn't even play Miss Marvel.
To be very, very honest, typically I don't play the hero specific allies. I
There's
normally
some that are
don't.
really, really good.
I mean, some of them are good, but normally I don't. That's not something I typically do.
So you don't like to play Sidekicked decks? That's one of my favorite cards in the game.
I need to try it sometime. I want to play the X23 Sidekicked, but that is beyond what we're discussing at this point, I guess. But, yeah, so there's only 3 Inhuman traded cards in this game. And so I'd be interested to see what impact he could make with an Inhuman traded hero pack. A few more in the future would be great. Because if you look at MODOK, you have 4 Inhumans that you're saving in MODOK's kit. I'm really hoping that's a hint that we're going to get some Inhumans to actually play in the future.
Like, get a Sarah Garza.
Like, get a Sarah Garza, sure.
I don't know who that
Like
is.
Sarah Garza, maybe to kind of add to tie back to Shield a little bit. If we're going to stick with Shield for a while, which I don't think that's going to be the case, they kind of made it clear that Shield was a one-off thing, and they weren't going to do 3 boxes in a row that connect a story together anymore.
Oh,
That's one of the things that Fantasy Flight kind of mentioned. Was my understanding. Now I could be completely wrong or misunderstanding what they're talking about there, but I could, if we're gonna do one-offs, do me a one-off wave of Inhumans. You know, give me Black Bolt, give me Medusa, give me freaking Quake. I'd love to see Quake in the game as a freaking hero. You know, and so I just feel like there's a lot. Crystal would be awesome too. There's a lot of Inhumans that they're underutilized because they're unpopular.
Levi, let's hear your rating of Lockjaw.
my rating of Lockjaw. Yes, so I will rate it as a Siamese cat.
That doesn't sound good.
Siamese specifically because if he was a cat, if he were to turn into a cat, he would have the same colorings as a Siamese cat. But Siamese cat because like at a distance, like cats are fun. I'm not going to say that I don't like cats. Cats are fun. They're cool. But in retrospect, they don't really do a whole lot. And that's how I see Lockjaw. Like Lockjaw is like, I mean, he has his uses, like being neat, looking cool. But other than that, he's a Siamese cat.
That's fair. What about you, Jason?
Man, the Yelp review that I got for Lockjaw is a 1.5 star.
Out of
He
5.
is, yeah, he's a good boy and is a lot of fun when he's around, but just doesn't come around as often as I need him to, and might eat me out of house and home. So, just too expensive. And so I think a 1.5 is the rating I will give for this ally. And I hate doing it, but I just feel like that is the right fit.
Okay. I feel like I would give him on a tier list. I don't know. I might give him like a low B or a high C. High C because it looks like he would drink a bunch of high C. But I feel like he does have a lot of good uses, but I feel like he's niche in how you would use him, because it would only be if you had a bad hand. It would also only be likely in a deck that would cause him to be discarded, or in a deck that needed a resourcing. But Lockjaw does have some really good uses. I like the fact that I can just play him whenever I want to from the discard pile. I'm not anxious about, oh shoot, if I use him as a resource, I don't get to play him until the next deck pass. So I appreciate that I can bring him in. He comes when I call. He's a good boy. He listens.
Yeah.
So I like that about him. I've just never personally included him in any decks. And I may include him in some decks here in the future with, like I said, Magneto, Domino, or Bishop, but he like you said, is a bit expensive. So.
That was great. Thank you so much for sharing and bringing a cool ally to the table here, Earth Twister. That was awesome.
The best of boys.
The best of boys, Mr. Lewis. Do we know who we will be discussing next week?
Well, Earth Twister already ruined it by looking at my screen and seeing the wrong card that I picked up earlier. Legion. Dun, dun, dun.
That is exciting. That show was trippy, man. But I'm excited to hear more about Legion. That's awesome.
Yes, it is.
Asking for the viewers, what do you mean by that show is trippy?
Fox, in between time in which they're going to do...
FX.
FX. It was FX? Okay.
It was FX.
It was FX. But anyways, in the time in between they were going to do like a movie, they actually made a TV series. I think it was like 3 seasons of Legion.
3 seasons.
And so I watched the first 2, and then I did not finish the final one. The biggest actor in there, and Levi Lewis may tell us more next week, but the biggest actor in there is the girl is one of the girls that was in Parks and Rec, and she played Chris Pratt's wife or girlfriend, I think.
April Ludgate.
In the show.
Her name is Aubrey Plaza.
Aubrey Plaza, yep. And then, is it her real name, Aubrey Plaza?
Yes.
Yes, that is her real name.
But she played just about as creepy a person in Legion as she did in the new Agatha All Along show. So, anyhow, not the same character. 2 wildly different characters, but good times, yeah. Legion was wild and weird, and they did some interesting takes on mutants in that show.
But we'll talk about that next week.
All right. So, okay, you want to close us out here, Twister?
I'm done. Yeah, let's do that. Thanks so much for watching, guys, or listening, rather. And this has been Sidekicked, a Marvel Champions podcast where we tell you all about the allies. Hope you enjoyed learning about Lockjaw, and we'll see you guys, or you'll hear us, in the next Marvel Champions Sidekicked podcast. This has been Earth Twister.
This has been Jason Sketch. Next time, I'll be deadly serious next time.
And this is Levi Lewis. Watch out for all those wombats out there.
Peace. There's a lot of Inhumans that they're underutilized because they're unpopular.
You know what?
So
we're going to make them popular. They're gonna be
popular.
popular.
Anyways.